listening and watching across the nation on our YouTube and Facebook. Glad to have you guys as we continue to keep things rolling. Look, football is still talked about amidst all this baseball, softball, and basketball because down in New Orleans, it is the HBCU Legacy Bowl that will be played today. And nobody better to talk about it than my man who's been down there all week. He is from FCS Football Central. Y'all know him. I know him. I call him Blue. I got it from my man Scotty, but his name is Zach McKinnell. Zach, good morning, man.
Good morning, man. How you been?
Doing good, man. How are you?
Good. Been traveling, down in New Orleans all week. Got me some good seafood as always, and looking forward to today's game.
You got to make sure you eat good. Zach and I did a series throughout the season on Sundays, basically recapping games around all the conference, black college, and whatever else. So, man, I can't wait to football season. This is a guy who, if you want to talk sports, he knows what he's talking about. This is a good guy right here. And as we're talking about sports, the HBCU Legacy Bowl today will be on the NFL Network. Kickoff is going to be 3 o'clock Central Standard Time down in Ullman Stadium on the campus of Tulane in New Orleans. So, along with that, I'm sure have you got caught up with any Mardi Gras parades?
I have not. Now, listen, I was late to practice because of the weather because they moved it because they were going between the Saints facility and Tulane, and then they had the interstate shut down trying to get the float downtown. So traffic was crazy one morning. So that's about as Mardi Gras as I got, man.
I bet you was like, what the hell is going on, right?
No, I'm from Mobile, so I get it.
Oh, okay. Mobile does do Mardi Gras. Now, that is always the back and forth. I'll say that conversation for another day in terms of the Mardi Gras. But listen, down in New Orleans, the HBCU Legacy Bowl, giving opportunity to HBCU football players from around the country, excuse me. But let's talk about Southern has a long snapper, as I always start at home. Talk to us about that Southern long snapper down there, man, how he's looking.
Yeah, he's been good, man. I actually talked to Braxton yesterday. I knew him from a while back, and he said he was excited for the opportunity, man. The special teams, the SWAC kind of has the advantage, man. I mean, you got a kicker in James Lowry from Tennessee State who had a really good year. You got Matt Knoll, who was an FCS All-American out of Jackson, and then you got Braxton, who has been an all-SWAC contributor, if I'm not mistaken. But, we kind of talked yesterday. He said he felt good about his performance. He said he's got good feedback. He said the only thing is he feels like his guy Joshua Griffin got snubbed a little bit, that he should have been down here in New Orleans. But other than that, man, he said he's had a heck of a week, and he's feeling good for today.
Looking around, you're talking about Noel. Listen, I got a chance to see him plenty of times in person last year. The kid can kick it from anywhere on the field, man. Great guy right there. Anybody stood out to you this week? Because, you go through the workouts, you have the NFL scouts, you got a lot of people looking at you. Anybody stood out where you was like, all right, I may not have saw this one coming?
Okay, so I'll split it between the teams. We'll start with Team Robinson because I know that's the team everyone who listens to this show really wants to know about. Listen, man, I saw it coming, but Irv Mulligan has been everything as advertised. I don't think that surprises anybody. Probably been the best running back in attendance. I've really been impressed with Jamari Gassett, too, out of FAMU at wide receiver. He's had a really, really good week in one-on-ones, had a pretty good combine as well. Obviously, the two tight ends have actually had really good weeks. Now, Jeremiah Pruitt has probably worked himself into PFA consideration with his combine performance and his performance throughout the week. Truck Griffin out of Alcorn, I think he's a bit too small for tight end, but I could see him projected as like an H-back somewhere, Perry. But, maybe not in the NFL, but he has that just dynamic athleticism in him where he can play everything. So I think H-back is where he would kind of go. Now, offensive line, Kurt Ford from Jackson's been the best guy here on Team Robinson, man. He's had pancakes. He's been physical. I like his punch. I think his side-to-side movement, his ability to handle speed and bull rush has really stuck out to me. So he'd probably be the top performer there. And then just in terms of other guys, and Kendall Bowler and Robert McDaniel were the last two names I had in mind. Kendall had a great week in 101, killed the combine. And I would say this, I think Rob McDaniel is probably the top-rated prospect here just because I don't know if he Terry, it's hard to teach his measurables, right? You don't get guys 6'2", 215 that run a 4.5 and have the vertical jump he does, that have the production that he does. he's one of the only guys in the HBCU draft class that checks all the boxes. And so I think those would be the guys I would mention. In terms of the other team, man, listen, here, you probably saw the tweet. It was the Elijah Williams show. Adam Morgan statement. I mean, listen, it was the MEAG Defensive Player of the Year, so expectations were already high. But Perry, I counted myself. He pancaked 5 guys in one-on-one as a defensive lineman. And one of the pancakes came off a spin move, Perry. Do you know how hard it is to pancake someone off a spin move?
Woo.
And he just, I mean, Perry, after the first day, guys were scared of him. I'm so serious. I'm not even joking.
Who else wants some of this?
He was that good. He was Devo out there, and no one was standing up to him, man. So I'll say this: I'm not a D2 guy, Perry, but Isaac Anderson out of Virginia Union had a really good week. He kind of reminds me of a smaller guy. You remember a few years ago when Ronnie Thomas came out and had a good week down here?
Mm-hmm.
He reminds me a little bit of like a Ronnie Thomas type, undersized, really quick, agile, athletic. But he hit a half spin move in one-on-one, and I'm talking about it was probably the most beautiful move I saw all week. I also think to Ahmad Nelson out of Tennessee State at linebacker, someone that has stuck out to me this week, and then also Jaleel Dean for Tennessee State at wide receiver had a really, really good week on one-on-ones, man. So those would probably be some of the guys that have stood out to me this week.
And, looking at you talking about from that wide receiver position, because there are some names that are familiar. You're talking about Davis of North Carolina Central. You're talking about Jaleel Dean at Tennessee State. Jamari Gass at Florida A&M. Casey Hawthorne, who I was a fan of at Howard. I mean, he can run it. He can catch it. I just don't know if they knew exactly how to truly use him. You're looking at Jaquez Jones, Norfolk State. Also, Shamar Savage from Prairie View. He was kind of quiet on the back end. What about Savage, looking at him? And then even from South Carolina State, Justin Smith-Brown, who was big time for South Carolina State this year as well.
Yeah, I mean, some of those guys had good weeks. Like Hawthorne, to me, out of all the guys you just named, had the best week of those guys. I think he was the best guy one-on-one. He showed his versatility, showed his quickness, showed his bend, athleticism, stuff like that. Listen, I get the hype around Davis, right, from Central. Perry, I mean, how do you teach what he has in terms of size and athleticism and running at, a 4.4 and all that at 6'5"? But what happened was he had this big combine performance, but he had a good first day of practice with Perry. I just don't know. And I'm just going to be honest. It's like, I feel like as media and as guys who are trying to help promote these guys, we got to be honest with our feedback on these players. Like, the thing with Davis is, Perry, he's just so stiff in his routes, and he has some drop issues, and that kind of overshadows his combine performance, because it's great you can do all these things in the combine, but Perry, we can't afford you to have drops. We can't afford to have bad routes.
Not at all.
And so to me, I know everyone's going to see the combine hype and be like, oh, he's going to get drafted, he's going to be this. But, Perry, the key for scouting is never let combine performances overshadow the film. Yep. Never let all-star one-on-one performance overshadow the film. You should use those tools to help confirm or make you go back and reevaluate the film. So nothing means more to me than the film in these guys. And so I would say Davis had a good week, but there's still some red flags coming out of his performance. But in terms of some of the other guys you mentioned, I thought Savage was okay. The thing with Savage is I wanted him to run a little bit better in the combine. I expected him to have a little bit better 40 than he had. And so for me, that's one thing I want to see if he can improve on in his pro day, because that's important, man. I mean, it's sad, but HBCU prospects, FCS prospects, man, we don't have, like, guys that come out of these types of schools don't have the leeway that a guy out of LSU has, right, Perry? Like, if a guy from LSU has a bad combine, they'll still look at the name on the logo on the helmet and be like, man, we can still take a chance on them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think guys coming out of FCS HBCU programs have that same ability to do that. So I would say that I want to see him improve on his 40, but he has all the other measurables, right? And that's important. I'm trying to look here for what his exact time was so I can give it to you. So I want to say he ran like a 4.6-ish.
Mm. And
so to me, if you're a top wide receiver in the draft, you got to give me better than a 4.6.
Blue, let me do this. Let me ask you this. I got about a minute before I got to go to break. The quarterback position is always one of those Will we ever see a quarterback from this league? Of course, we saw Shedeur Sanders at Jackson State, who ultimately went on to Colorado. But other than that, I mean, it's been kind of tough for quarterbacks in this league to get the hype. You look at Miles Crawley coming from Grambling, Draylon Ellis coming from Tennessee State, Eric Phoenix of South Carolina State, and Daniel Richardson to name some of those big-name guys that's over there from Florida A&M in about a minute. What have you seen from the quarterback position? I know those guys may be a little undersized, but anybody stand out in that area to you?
I think Crawley's probably been the best quarterback here, just in terms of measurables, throwing, accuracy, stuff like that. But the problem is, we've seen it with Miles his whole career, man. Like 1 week, Miles looks like an all-pro, and then period, something happens and it's not there anymore. And so I would say that I would be cautious with this quarterback class. Crawley might have the measurables to get a shot somewhere, but you look at guys like Richardson and Draylon Ellis and things like that, and they're just so undersized that I just find it hard to see them getting an opportunity. But Richardson has been really, really good at 7-on-7 periods, man. I mean, really, really quick getting the ball out, great accuracy. So him and Crawley would be the two guys I would probably highlight there.
Well, Blue Man, my man Zach McKinnell, a.k.a. Blue FCS Football Central. Hey, man, appreciate you coming on this morning, Blue, giving us an update. Everybody out there, if you want to watch the HBCU Legacy Bowl, it will be today, 3 o'clock kickoff down at Human Stadium. It's going to be on the campus of Tulane on the NFL Network. Blue, appreciate you for coming on this morning, man.
Yeah, appreciate you, man. Have a good one.
Go to a parade, man. Get you some beads, eat some beignets, man. Enjoy yourself.
I got to wait to get back to the real Mardi Gras, man, down in Mobile. And I'll leave it with that.
Here we go. Thank you, Blue.
Yeah, appreciate you, guys.